Welcome to Our Soul Whisper with Cathi Belmont and co-host Dr. Pat, a sacred space for self-discovery, healing, and transformation. At the heart of Our Soul Whisper is the sacred truth. When we pause and listen inward, the soul always speaks. This show offers a safe, empowering space where those whispers are heard, honored, and lovingly guided into full expression. Each episode invites you to be curious about yourself and the reality you're in, while gently reminding you that you are exactly where you need to be. Let today's message settle in your heart. Maybe even journal about it. And if something resonates, peace, clarity, or insight, pass it along to someone whose soul might be calling for the same. Keep listening inward. Your soul knows the way. Our Soul Whisper starts now. Hey everybody, welcome. I'm Dr. Pat, and I take this amazing journey with the most incredible Cathi Belmont. And I just want to tell you a little bit. Our Soul Whisper is a show about self-discovery, empowerment, and inspired action. And today's episode, Cathi, is especially relevant. The in-between season, letting go of the old self. Now, so much has been written esoterically, talked about, but one of the things that we're not talking about so much is the pull of the new self now. And we are trying so hard to adjust to the pull without letting go of anything. And the reason I love this episode is I recently did a major move and I had to let go of so many things to receive. So let's talk about that in between and what that means for you and what are you seeing in the people you work with. What a great topic. Thank you for taking this one on.
No, you're welcome, and Happy New Year, everyone. Yeah, I thought it was an important topic to look at. One, because as you mentioned, Dr. Pat, it's that in-between stage. Sometimes it's not always looked at, and it's kind of glossed from let's go to the old to the new, and that in-between stage is it's so important, and there's so much we can learn from that I really wanted to focus on that. And it's really, throughout our time today, I really wanted to be able to normalize that in-between stage. And so, when we're allowed to grieve or let go of who we used to be or what we used to hold on to, maybe beliefs or patterns, it's letting go of that and giving ourselves permission to do that. And a lot of times why we resist that is it can be uncomfortable. We want to go from this to here and not really feel or experience the uncomfort of that, which I can totally understand. It can be a very, uncomfortable place to be. And so it's really allowing ourselves that permission to feel that without that immediate need to fix it or to do something. Just allow yourselves to be there. And then it can also just fear of who we used to be, how we used to be and act and believe. And that discomfort can be that uncertainty. We're letting go of what's not serving us anymore. And we've come to that realization, yet we don't know who to be after that.
Cathi, one of the things that is so super important to really touch upon is that this particular topic hits the whole of us. What do I mean? Thoughts, emotions, actions, right? And, recently got to experience what this was like for me to move, but I didn't quite understand how it would impact my best friend. And what I realized is that for me, I had done all of my work before the move. But emotions that we carry forward, tell me about the impact of those, the grieving, the loss, whatever that is.
Yeah, it's allowing those emotions to be there and to say, what is it letting us know about? It's allowing that uncertainty to be there. And we've talked about this before. What is this emotion letting me know? What's still there that's not resolved? And so so these emotions can come up during this in-between stage that we don't really expect. We may feel the excitement of, yeah, I'm going into something new. Yet when these emotions come up, you know, and it's honoring them and reframing them and say, what are they letting me know here? What are they communicating? And so it's questioning ourselves and asking those questions of what's really here. And then, that's when we realize that, knowing that there's support to help you along the way
That's
as
the
you do
trick,
that.
though, isn't it? That's a
Yeah.
trick. I want to ask you a question because this is
Mhm.
something you do. This is your coaching platform. This is what you help people with. But I think my own experience in life is I don't always know, or I have not always known I was in an in-between season until it was over. And then I look back and I'm like, OMG, if I'd have known that, I would have dot, dot, dot. So can you talk about what that in-between season is like?
Yeah, I mean, we can feel disconnected from what we used to do or be. I know I was in a career that I just slowly said, I'm losing the excitement, and it was kind of visioning what is it that I'd really like to do. You have that loss of motivation maybe for something that used to be something that brought you joy and it's not there anymore. Or also there may be that sense of grief along with this a little bit of peace or excitement of, yeah, I'm letting this go, and oh my gosh, the possibilities that it will take me to. So it could be that mixture of feelings. Also, it may just be questioning, where am I going now? What are my next steps? And
Yeah.
so it's really, again, seeing all these signs as growth and movement forward and not taking us back. And that's what I mean by really kind of normalizing and putting some energy and focus on this in between, because it's a topic that maybe we don't always look at or talk about or hear about. We hear about, let's move into this new year of hope and the fiery horse, but it's honoring where we're coming from and that in between of how to get there.
Yeah. And it's so interesting. I was talking with someone earlier today. It's grace. It's how do we do this with grace? And it doesn't mean, so we get confused sometimes. And this is important because I think that you work with people that you get to see a whole range of things that happen when people are in the in-between space. And we don't realize we're in between it. We don't think or we don't see a future for ourselves. So, what does it take to allow ourselves not to know? What does it take for us to be in that level of uncertainty?
It's just knowing that you don't have to be any certain way. You don't, where the supportive life coaching comes in is it lets you know you don't have to explain or have the answers now. You don't have to resolve anything immediately. And it's really allowing yourself to say, this is what's here right now. I'm a little nervous here. I just let go of this and I have no plan of how to go forward. And so it's allowing the clients to be in that space. I know for me, when I'm through change, I not too long ago gave myself choice. I have choice here. I don't have to move ahead to where it's a little bit more scary than I can take on. And so that really put me in a place of, it was an act of self-love that I've come to know. I don't have to go there until I'm ready. And that's, the coaching allows you to be where you are. And as we'll talk about a
Mhm.
little bit later, to really get clear on where are you exactly before you want to move ahead.
Yeah. I had a conversation about this, and I'm glad you're going to take on the conversation about, clarity and where to get clear. One of the things that I discovered is when I'm in that place of knowing, like I knew it was time for me to move. Everybody around me wasn't quite sure. And so when I got asked the question of why, I was trying to give them a logical reason. The answer was simple. I just know. I just know. But sometimes we can be influenced by other people's doubt. I mean, isn't that also part of what can keep us stuck in that in-between state?
It is. It's feeling like we have to be somewhere or be someone that we're not quite ready to do yet. And so it's really an opportunity to go in and say, what's important to me here now? And giving yourself that space of, again, not having to perform or do anything, and to really get in touch with what the internal is trying to say to you as opposed to the external and all these things that we should be or should do, or I should be further along. That one always gets me. I have to rein myself back on that one. So it's not a race. And it's
Yeah.
it's it's really it's honoring where we are right now. It's
Yeah.
always going back to that present moment.
Yeah. I was telling somebody today that we've moved back here, but I haven't settled on my office yet. So this is a temporary space, which wasn't supposed to be temporary, but I've had two to three, and I'm getting ready for a third try because it isn't just me that's moving things around. We're also doing other things. And, when I said to somebody, yeah, I'm going to try a different scenario, maybe a different space, they're like, wow, you've been there like weeks. What do you mean you can't figure out? And I was just kind of a little like, well, should I have figured this out sooner? Not really. Not really.
Yeah.
But part of this is for me to stop and honor it. It's not just about finding an office space. We have to go through the stages of what did I leave? What did I let go of? Do
Yeah.
I miss my ping pong table? How do you help people through that, Cathi?
It's giving people that space to honor that space. I actually met with a client not too long ago, and they got in touch with something that brought up a memory of where they lost a job 10 years ago. And they came to that recognition that, I am not that same person anymore. I have more wisdom, I have more experience, I'm more financially stable. And that was awesome. And then what made it even more awesome is they were able to go back and say, I'm grateful for that experience where I lost my job because I made it through, and I can look back at that person and say, gosh, thank you for being so courageous in doing that and making me who I am today. So it's honoring where we are, and it's also looking back and honoring how far we've come.
Mm,
And it's seeing where we've outgrown things and seeing how that can give us the strength to where we are now, and to honor what's ending and honor what supported us along the way.
yeah, yeah. I want to talk about that because I don't know how you are, but some people and some of us grew up very independent. We can handle it all. But what I found in my life is when it comes to emotions, letting go, grief, beliefs, I realize I can't. And, that's why so many people right now are really struggling. And alcohol, drugs, whatever you want, food, it's a way to comfort that. So one of the things I want to ask you is what are one of the first things that you do or help people in supporting emotional process? And what I mean by that is, there's a process and then there's a process. And sometimes you can't like go after everything, right?
Yeah.
It's like you can't go back to the minute you were born and recreate your life without literally passing out. So how do you, how do you work with this?
It's getting people in touch with their emotional awareness and what's going on. And it's creating awareness to know that you don't have to get stuck in the feeling. Like we're not our feelings. We can see them as energy. I think what helped me is to see them as waves just moving through us. We don't have to create a dam where we keep them inside. And it's really allowing to know that we're going to be okay and survive this strong feeling that's coming through. And we don't have to avoid it or intellectualize that or make them stronger than we are. And we really develop tools to help self-regulate yourself and to ground you. When you're in that emotional place, what will assist you most in that moment? Will it be to sit back and take a breath? Will it be to, oh, I'm going to whip out all those things that bring me joy, or those affirmations, or those words that I know lift me up? Or at work, I used to keep a list of all the compliments I would get. Hey, Cathi did a great job. Anything that brings you to a place of grounding. Could be going outside. That's where the client and I discover what for them works for them. And so that's what I mean by helping us through those. It's not having all the answers or being overwhelmed. What can help me in this moment? Again, going back to that power of the present and what's going to help us most in that moment in this stage of our lives.
So, Cathi, along the way, and this is really, we've talked about this a lot. There's a lot on the news, and you can Google it. One of the themes that I picked up for myself this year is fresh start. And sometimes fresh start to people, when they see how excited I am about it, they don't realize that fresh start could be changing an entire life, right? And, the universe, I think, needs a little bit more information when you say, I'd like a fresh start, that you say, I'd like a fresh start with abundance, da, da, la, la, la. You got to finish the sentence. Because I got a fresh start one year and I was homeless. So I don't want that fresh start. So how do we connect with that inner wisdom? Because without it, boy, we can really, I'm telling you, our mind can really mess us up.
Yeah, it's learning to go within. And I've found that in times of change, when I try to look to the external, I find that's not really helping. And it really helped guide me inside to trust my intuition again. When I went through a major life change, I I found that the only thing that brought me comfort, real comfort, was going inside. And again, learning to listen to myself because I lost myself and it was finding my way back. And so it's learning to trust yourself again, that knowing those messages, and having the courage to really ask yourself those deeper questions. You know, what's really important to me right now? And shifting from the external validation to the internal, and to really take on that belief of it's an inside out job. You know, if looking inside and seeing what's going on there, it's going to project outward, and that's what we're seeing. So it's not getting lost in the external, but really going inside to where we can really depend on what we want to see later. And it's strengthening this intuition during that uncertainty.
Yeah. I want to touch upon this a little bit more with you because without that trust, we react. Without that trust, we do things. Without that trust, we rush. I made a decision to transport my car in the move. I also made a decision not to move all of my furniture. I left my furniture in storage. And to a lot of people on the outside, it was kind of like, you look like you're confused. No, I wasn't. But how do we prevent reacting or acting and making decisions that we're like, why in the world did I make that decision? What do we do about that?
It's slowing down and really getting clear on, is this something that I'm aligned with, or is this something that I'm trying to avoid? And again, that goes back to asking ourselves those questions and really being in tune. And really taking that time, taking a few breaths to say, am I acting out of fear here because I don't think there's going to be enough? Or is this something that I know that my soul, the higher part of me is saying, move forward, we've got your back. And making those choices that honor where you are instead of that pressure of where you think you should be. And so again, it's slowing down and taking that pause, however that works for you. And that's again where we work, where I would ask a client, what would assist you most in slowing down? It could be taking a breath. It could be, I'm going to step up from my computer. I'm going to step away from the situation. I'm going to say a word. Whatever that would be to remind you to slow down and just take that extra moment to really question. And if it is an action coming out of fear, what would you like to do? Well, I'm going to give myself a day to think about it. It's you. You have that choice to create how you want to be. We can take that action out of fear, and then it can be like, you know what? I did that again, and I really don't like it. And that's another opportunity to say, yeah, I just don't want to do that again. I've gone over that rim of where it's just the cost of it is too high. And I don't want to go there. So really seeing it as on both sides and not getting down on ourselves because we went there again.
Yeah.
How quickly can we bring ourselves back and say, well, last time it took me 2 weeks, this time it only took me a day. Wow. And really looking at that and empowering ourselves with that.
Yeah. I mean, part of this too is, and as we look at these things, I want to talk to the point that we're starting a year. And if you listen to everybody out there, you get an energy from it. And yet, when you're in the in between, whether it be mentally, emotionally, or physically, I don't care what it is, there are things we can learn, tools that you teach to help people. I like to call it move the needle. Everybody says just go, but we just need to move the needle a little bit, don't we?
We do. And it's knowing that it's taking those small steps and knowing that we don't have to just eat the whole enchilada. No, we can just take these little bites. They always say, when you're eating, slow down, take those bites and give yourself a moment before you reach for the next one. You may already be full, so it's enough. It's enough to take those steady steps, and it also builds our confidence. We take one step, wow, look where I went.
Yeah.
And again, it's taking those intentional steps and not being reactive. And so
Right.
it's those small steps that help move that needle just a little bit. And wow, how it can change our perception, just that little change, what that can do to what we see through our eyes and how we can see the world just that little bit differently. It can give us that extra wow to really say, okay, I can
Hmm.
do this. I can do this.
Yeah.
And we were not met with that overwhelm. Giving
I love
ourselves
this.
again that choice,
Uh,
small steps.
I remember losing my job and going to therapy with Dr. Juanita Lovett. And I remember going through the first session and it felt so good. Why? Because I'm talking to somebody. And I remember at the end and I said, great, we're done. Thank you for helping me. And she looked at me like, you're done? So my point to your point is consistent and as often as you needed support is the only way I knew how to go through this. What's your take on that?
Yeah, this in between place, it can feel isolating when we're in our head about a lot of things. Um, and especially when we're dealing with this and we think, okay, we got to move on quickly. Having that support, having that coaching support, it's a steady presence as you move through whatever you're moving through.
Hmm.
And it also, we talked about accountability last time. It allows you to, as you have these experiences, as you have these awarenesses, um, guiding you through how do you want to support yourself now? What inspired action can you take? It may be writing that list of gratefuls every morning. It doesn't have to be anything, overwhelming. So it's having that steady support, knowing I can count on it. I can go to this session and I'm feeling empowered. Yay, let's celebrate. You know what? I'm not feeling so empowered this week. All right, well, let's look at that and let's honor that as well.
I love it. Cathi, thank you for today. First, how do people work with you? Let's do that. And I'd love to know your personal message and what you want to leave us with.
Yeah, just go ahead and visit OurSoulWhisper.com. Everything is there. Email too, if you need to send me a message or would like to send me a message. You can find all the information there. And just reminding people that this in-between time, whatever you're in, whatever you're letting go of, we can reframe that and look at it as a part of growth. And you're allowed to slow down, take that time and make the choice. And with the support, you're able to build that steadiness and taking those intentional next steps and just knowing that you don't have to do this on our own. You don't have to navigate it. We're the creators of our reality, and that's why we humans are here. We're here to help each other out.
Yeah. I love that this is a theme this year because I think we have to remind each other that as much as we think we can do everything, when you're in that in between, one of the hardest things to do for all of you out there is to reach out for help. And I'm telling you right now, give Cathi a call, get a hold of Cathi, have a conversation with her, and find out for yourself how to move the needle. Cathi, thank you so much for everything.
Yeah, thank you.
For all of you out there, remember the in-between state doesn't have to be a stuck state. It can be one of the most creative times of your life. But if you're me, what you've learned is if left to your own devices, you will get stuck in it. We'll see you next time. Thank you for listening to Our Soul Whisper with Cathi and Dr. Pat. Tune in every first and third Wednesday at 11 a.m. Pacific on transformationtalkradio.com and subscribe so you never miss an episode. Take a moment now to breathe in and reflect on today's message. If it brought you peace, clarity, or insight, let it settle in your heart and maybe even journal about it. Remember to like and share this episode with someone who's ready to listen within. May our soulful echoes ripple outward, awakening awareness and deep remembrance. If this show touched something within you, share it. Let's create a world where most of us pause, listen inward, and allow our light to shine. Visit OurSoulWhisper.com for more.